Let the people praise him. Mm-hmm. Good. All right. So, so this Parsha that we're going to go over here is the second half of Kadashim. Right. So we're going to go over the second half of that, and I'll touch on Emor, but looks like I'll be doing a little bit more than touching on it this time, just in case. Next week we'll see what happens. But we're going to go over this here, and y'all remember what we talked about last week about Kadashim? What does that mean? Being, what they say, Kadosh, what does that mean? Set apart? Okay. What else did you get out last week? Okay. All right. All right, so you guys are going to get this, remember this part here? You guys have been studying? So y'all ready again? All right, so I'll start off for you guys. Wadaber Yahuwah El Moshe Lamor, which means, and Yahuwah spoken to Moshe saying, what did he say? Deber El call, Jadat, Beni Yisrael. Am I going to read it, or y'all going to read with me? Oh, okay. Speaking kind. All right, so I tell you what, let me get a marker. Let me get my marker out. All right, so we right here. Let me go back here. All right, let me get a marker here. All right, so we're right here, right? All right, so what does that say? The burial call, Hadat, which means what? Okay, so there we go. So right here, okay. Then it says what? Beni Israel, the children of Israel. Now what do we have? Well, Marta, Elehim, Kadishim. It's not work. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's in two places. Tehuki, Kedushani Yahuwah Elohim. All right. So anyway, it says the children of Israel say unto them, "You shall be set apart, for I, Yahuwah Elohim, am set apart," or Kedush. Right. So the pattern is going to be for this is what? He's set apart. We got to be set apart. Everyone with me so far? This is how this is going to go down. Even when we get into your feelings today, still remember, he's set apart. Okay, great. All right. I'll know whose feelings it is in just a minute. All right. So it says things that make you Kadashim, right? What does it mean? We already said it, right? Right. So we are to be set apart. Basically, we are going to be different from other nations. Things that the nation or nations around Israel is doing were not pleasing to Yahuwah. Majority of the things on the list is from what the nations are doing, right? So if you read the Parsha, I'll give you the last portion of it, which is right here, where it says, "And you shall not walk in the manner of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them," right? So if you read it, the whole purpose of him saying all these things is because what they were doing, he didn't want Israel to be doing. The things that the nations were doing, he didn't want that in our lives. Is someone with me so far? All right. So we're going to see what that means. All right. So we'll start here at 19:16. It says, "You should not go up and down as a talebearer among your people, neither shall you stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahuwah." Right? I need Yahuwah. "You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall in any wise rebuke or reprove your neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. You shall not avenge, nor bear or nor nurse any grudge against the children of your people. But you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I need Yahuwah. I am Yahuwah." Now, remember these things. Now, we know the Mashiach said this here, right? In 1918. We know it's in other places. So we'll first look at the first word here, which is talebearer. Okay, so talebearer is Rakil, right? In the Hebrew, there, rachil. And that means what? Slander. Okay. Traveling about. Okay. Traveling about. Carrying tales, tale-bearing, root meaning to travel or for trade. Okay, that's the root of it. Aramaic says to be a trader. Okay, you're going to be a trader. All right. The next one is for the word neighbor. Okay, Raya means to be an associate, more or less. Listen to what it says now. More or less. Okay, brother, companion, fellow, friend, husband, lover, neighbor. And then the X means how it's literally translated inside the KJV, which is another or other. Okay, so keep this in mind. This is your friend. The next word is to avenge. He says, not to do this, right? Lo nacham. But it says to grudge, avenge, or punish. Avenger, avenge self, to take vengeance. How do we do that? Is that what that means? Get back? Right? All right. So it says we're not to do that. But you hurt me. But you do that. You did it to me. Eye for an eye. Tooth for a tooth. Okay. All right. So everyone understands this part. The other part we're going to get into is what's the difference between this and bear any grudge? So what's the difference between the two? Okay. So a lot of us understand the avenge part, right? But okay, so let's look and see. The word there is natar. Okay, natar literally means to guard, cherish the anger. So not only do you have one, you're like, hey, I got to have this thing in me, right? This is your fuel. Okay, this is your fuel. To bear grudge, to keep it, to reserve, to protect the anger. Okay, it's a little bit different than just avenge. I got a grudge against you, but you take it to the next level, and this thing starts to be like living inside you, and you're holding it, and you're cherishing it. And every time when I see that person, my goodness, right? All stuff starts coming back out of you, right? So everyone sees this, right? So I figured this right here might be a little bit something we might want to talk about, right? So let's see. Here's an example. Lamentations 3:12 says, he has bent his bow and set me as a mark for the arrow. Which one do you think is the word there, natar? 5, 4, 3, 2. Bent. You marked that person. You marked him. That person is going to be on your radar from here on out. And I'm going to nurse that anger and that grudge towards this person. He is marked. Okay. So let's look at this here from a etymology root here. So is it possible that the terror represents two homonyms we'll talk about in just a minute? So you see in the red, I got the first part of it is to relate to, this is Arcadian, which is naradu, which means to be wild, or rabid, which means extreme, uncompromising, passionate. I know none of us are like this. I'm just reading what the definition is, right? So anyway, parallel of shameru, which means rage. Literally, it's about rage. So the etymology has been proposed in Jeremiah 3:5, Yirmiyahu 3:5, Amos 1:11. You guys can see all the other scriptures that it have. The second part of it is a Proto-Semitic, which gives you, again, you get Arcadian, get the Ugaritic. I'm not going to go through all the things here, but it really gets down to guard and keep. Okay, so when you put those two together, what do you have? Think about it. If you got someone that's wild or extreme or uncompromising or passionate, and then they keep or they guard that. Okay, so keep that in mind. They're coming together, right? So everyone's with you so far. All right, great. No one wants to leave just yet. We'll keep going. Yirmiyahu 3:5 says, "Will he reserve his anger?" So it's translated as reserve. Okay, natar as reserve forever. Will he keep it to the end. Behold, you have spoken and done evil things as you could. Now, here's talking about you're reserving that anger. So, it's you reserving. What does it mean you're reserving your anger? Okay, you holding on to it? Huh? Okay. All right. You're reserving. All right. So keep that in mind because this is what this is showing. At some point, verse 12 says, go and proclaim these words towards the north and say, return you backsliding Yasharal Israel, saith Yahuwah, and I will not cause my anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, saith Yahuwah, and I will not keep anger forever. Remember, the difference is, we said at the beginning of this, is we have to be just like him, right? Set apart. We got to be set apart. The things that he does, we must do. Is everyone with me so far? All right. Any questions up to this point? I don't want to go too fast. You might miss it. All right. 1917, it says, you should not hate your brother in your heart. You shouldn't in any wise rebuke or reprove, which we'll see in a minute, your neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. So here's the word here for neighbor, but this is a different word for neighbor here, right? This is sharing with you that it's in a broader scope. Comrade, kindred man, another fellow neighbor in general, right? All right. So here's how the Torah works. It gives us the bone or the skeleton or the foundation of what Yahuwah wants. That's how this works. We have to put the ligaments, the tendons, the muscles onto the skeleton in order to move in the direction he wants us to go. Okay, so here it is. This is what you like it or not. This is what I ask of you. It's your job now to get that into motion, right? So we have to see the connection or connections, how we as flesh beings need the skeleton to walk and function, spiritually speaking, right? So we need to learn how to move with his word. Sometimes you may not like the bone hardcore what it says, but nonetheless, we can't change it. We can't add, we can't take away. It's just what it is, right? All right. So let's look at the scripture and see what we can glean from reading it using this principle. Question, can we hate our brother? Okay, we shouldn't hate our brother. All right, so we'll continue and say, you should not hate your brother where? Can you hate your brother? All right, so here's the deal. We're always taught we can't hate our brother, right? That's not what it says. You can't hate him in your heart.
So you can hate him for a second in your mind?
Right, we're going to see what happens in just a minute. That's why I said we're not going to add to it, but I want you to see what it's trying to say. First is, you can't hate your brother where? In your heart. But suppose you do have hate. The hate can't be in your heart. We're just taking it slow. Is everyone with me so far? All right. Here's the other half of it. You shall anywise rebuke or reprove your neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Okay? Because the minute it enters your heart, there's a whole new different dynamics that takes place. Okay? So keep this in mind. Next part is, you should not avenge, nor bear or nurse any grudge against the children of your people. And then you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahuwah. All right, so how does all of this fit together? You can hate your brother, just not in your heart. How does this work? You may hate the action your brother did. The act must be a violation of the word. You can't just hate him because you just feel like hating him. There has to be some violation, right? Then it says, then the next step is to rebuke or reprove your neighbor, your companion. So I hate what this person did, but I need to do this part next, okay? Before it gets any further, before it gets out of control, let's see if we can do this, right? Don't let it get to your heart. It will cause you to want revenge. You start to nurse or bear the grudge. It will, in some cases, be against the people, meaning not only that, but since you're connected to him, I don't like you neither. And if you're connected, I don't like you neither. So now you all get contaminated. Okay? Everybody's contaminated now, right? Whoever you know, I don't want to know. Okay? So it becomes buried inside your heart. You pretend everything is fine. However, if it does not make it to your heart, you can love them as yourself. Of course, if they receive the reproof, right? So the point is, what is sharing with you, don't put it in your heart. Do something. Rebuke, reprove. Don't take that revenge and grudges, but to love your neighbor as yourself.
So you saying my brother does something that
You said he missed the last Shabbat class about being obedient.
All right. My brother does something that I hate, or that matter Yahuwah hates. Because whatever Yahuwah hates,
You should hate.
I should hate, right? I recognize that he's going in the wrong direction. I hate the fact that I see that. I should address it with my brother immediately. So that's what Mashiach was saying. Anyway, he says, if you have an order against your brother, you go to that person and you deal with them one-on-one. If they hear you, okay, you warn your brother, but if they don't, you come back with 2 or 3 witnesses, right? You deal with them. He still don't want to hear. It's not going into my heart because I'm not trying to hate you. I really love you. This is really love.
Right.
Not
Because if
really.
you love me, you will keep the commandments.
Yeah.
Right? So if there's any violation of it,
Got it.
you want to help them get out of the violation mode before it gets into your heart. He's new. He's new. He's new to the rules. You got to have a microphone.
Okay, Phil.
So just in case people online, they want to hear what you got to say. Man, bear no burdens. I'm gonna choke you up. All right.
So my question is this: so would you say that this is the principle for what's written in the Brit of to be angry but do not sin?
Right. Anger, just don't sin. Okay. We're gonna upgrade one day.
Upgrade, right? Like everybody. What is the biblical definition of hate? So we can understand the root of it. Like, what is hate?
So hate. So it depends if I take from the Hebrew through the Aramaic, even the Greek, it's like having something less than love. So, for an example, the definition in the Greek says love less.
Okay.
Right? You don't have a love for them. The hate portion of it is something you despise. Right? You despise evil. You despise wickedness. So you hate that.
Okay. Gotcha.
Maury, may I please ask a question?
Sure.
My question is in reference to our brethren, our neighbors. What if you're speaking in reference to those of us that follow the Most High's law, statute, and commandments, or are you just speaking of people in general?
Okay, so a neighbor realistically is your brother, your sister, your associate, your community, your people. That is your neighbor. So in other words, if you have someone that lives next door to you that you have no, let's say not in the wall, let's say he just lives next to you. That's not the neighbor that the scriptures is called a neighbor. That's just the definition that we call neighbor today.
Okay.
You don't have to mistreat them. But if let's just say they can eat all the pork and swine and everything they want to do on their property, had nothing to do with you. But if it was your brother or sister, you would want to go into them and say, "Listen, that is wrong. I need to tell you something." So the difference is that you still remember it says you are a stranger in the land, right? So you should not vex them. So I wouldn't vex my neighbor because they're not walking the same way neither.
Even though the neighbors are cruel to, for example, cruel to us, and that we bear them no ill will. We have no hate in our heart towards them.
Right. Right.
And even though we did try to, for example, reconcile, they want nothing else to do with us, but they continually, like, for example, torment us. But there is no there's no hate in our heart. So I'm just trying to understand between brethren in reference to walking with the Most High
Mhm.
And also, for example, like our brothers and sisters that are in class today or online, walking with the Most High versus the people in the world, which are basically our neighbor, like you said, the next door neighbor, that
Right.
is just not being very nice.
Right. So the difference, like you hear David Psalms all the time, my enemies, kill my enemies, destroy my enemies. So
Right.
he's realistically saying that's not his neighbor,
Okay.
So the difference is how you want to be treated, so to speak, your brother and sister. These are the things that is dealing with those that are in the walk. Those are out of the walk. I don't go out of my way to put some nails underneath my neighbor's car and say, I don't like this guy. Let me throw some nails. When we wake up in the morning, his tire's flat. I don't vex them, but if they act a certain way, then sure, you should stand your ground and say, listen, I don't like you talking to me. I don't appreciate X, Y, and Z. So it's not telling you, hey, be quiet, be silent, don't do this. You still have
Right.
rights within the law to do certain things. But as far as just how you openly do something to them, basically saying is you don't operate like they operate. You
Right.
don't want to be that. You're supposed to be the example or the light. But if they don't want to receive that light, then you leave them alone. It's like shaking the dust off your feet and keep going.
Right.
Mhm.
Thank you, Maury.
Oh, you good?
So my question is it's based on stuff that I've experienced here before. You have some brother that I think they're just like insolent and disrespectful, and then them like ask you, hey, like where's your success? Or if you say, hey, I want a wife, I want to get married, what are you gonna do with a wife? And sometimes you just want to tell them to like screw themselves, but because of respect, you don't do that.
Mhm.
So how do you like approach a situation like that with a brother that's just consistently disrespectful and just like always have like literally have something in their heart or their mind against you based upon what they say?
Okay. So the first thing I would do is the very thing you said. I go to him.
But every time I talk to the brother, like, hey, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, when I say go to him, I mean you go to him outside. You and that person individually. It's you and that person privately go together and say, I need to talk with you.
I've done that in the past. It's consistent, continuous.
And then so what's the next part? The next part is it becomes get a couple of witnesses. You see how that works? So you say, hey, I tried it. It didn't work. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, but I'm going to come with other witnesses and let them judge a matter. And these witnesses that you bring would be witnesses that are neutral, not on your side, not on that person's side. This is someone's like, look, I'm going to side with righteousness. Let me hear the matter, X, Y, and Z. That's not right, period. And then what happens? It says if the witness says it, it stands. You know what I mean? That whoever the witness give the judgment, that's what stands. And then you keep going.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to point out that the word that the key to what the sister originally asked was, which was our neighbor, is the word reprove or rebuke in here, because you can't reprove someone that don't agree with the same terms. Like you said, it's not the regular neighbor next door. They're not agreeing to follow the rules of law. So I can't go rebuke them or reprove them about eating pork.
Right.
We're not on the same page.
Right.
But somebody who agrees that's on the same page, that's how we will fix this or understand who is actually supposed to be my neighbor, because we're supposed to be walking together under the same covenant.
Right.
That's why we get the reprove part.
Right. Hallelujah. Okay.
Kane, yesterday I was at the market purchasing some lamb, and I had the lady at the counter was like, she owns lamb on her property, and she has a whole new outlook. She'll never kill a lamb. And I'm like, I could come out like, well, what about the pay side? But I'm like, she's not my neighbor. She's not my people. Right. So like, why would I waste my breath with that?
I just said, I understand. I'm going to give you some land. I'd hook him right on up. All right. All right. All right, so love and hate, okay? So the first part, reaching your brother, find a way to tell them, but not in a way that causes you to not transgress, okay? Do it in a way that would not bring shame to that person or yourself. Present yourself in a way that they can hear you. Sometimes we get aggressive with I want you to hear me, but the way it's coming out may not work because of how I feel. You know, you could be right, but the way you bring it out causes the stumbling block. Is everyone with me so far? Right. Right. Because I was a witness of a counseling. I was a witness of a counseling, and the guy was saying everything right, but he was loud. Don't get me wrong. And after, I started laughing. I mean, I had tears in my eyes. But anyway, the other guy, and the reason why I'm laughing was because the other guy couldn't receive it. He was just like, but why are you yelling at me? That's all he didn't hear nothing else. He said, man, I'm telling you, man. He said, man, I'm just passionate. And he's like, passionate about what? You didn't hear what I said? And he's like, no, I didn't get it. So he's like, he didn't get it. I said, well, you may be passionate about and how you're speaking, but you're not being considerate of the other person. Yeah, so he's like, until you bring that 2 decimals down, a notch down, I'm not going to be able to get it. Right? So everyone's with me so far. All right. Other part. It says, when you have it in your heart, you are saying, I'm fine. I can go about my day or days as if you are unfazed. Right? But you begin to protect or cherish the anger, smiling on the outside, but either hurting or having hate, loving less. On the inside, bitterness is there, and at some point it will come out. This is how that works. So you can think you're tricking yourself, but understand at night or the day or throughout your day, you're constantly thinking about it, right? So you may be good that day, but the next day you might have an issue, okay? So that's sharing with you how you're starting to nurse this thing, right? You're really protecting it and you're guarding it. And sometimes people have a hard time releasing it, but they have a great time protecting it. Okay? All right. So give reproof. So Mishlei of Proverbs 6:23 says, for the commandments is a lamp and the law is a light. For reproof, instructions are the way of life. Everyone agrees. Mishlei 10:17, he is in the way of life that keeps instructions, but he that refuses reproof errs. If you don't want the reproof, you're erring in your ways. 12:1. Whoso loves instruction loves knowledge. He that hates reproof is brutish or stupid or a fool. That's the definition. I didn't make it up. You can read it up on your dictionary at your own leisure. 15:32. He that refuses instruction despises his own soul, but he that hears reproof gets understanding. And of course, 2 Timothy 3:16 mirrors Mishlei of Proverbs 6:23. All scripture is given by inspiration of Elohim and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instructions in righteousness. So if the witness or if anyone's given this, it has to be from the word, from the scriptures to reprove, not your feelings or emotions to reprove that person. It's a way in how you do things. Everyone's good? Okay. All right, so next part of the Parsha is Leviticus 19:19. You shall keep my statutes. You should not let your cattle gender with a diverse kind. You should not sow your field with mingled seed. Neither shall a garment mingle of linen and woolen come upon you. All right, so animals after their own kind. We've read that in Bereshit or in Genesis. So we are to preserve the species and plant life, no mixing and creating contamination. That's what you're doing. Everything has its role to play on this earth. This is what Kodesh or set apart means. When we crossbreed, we change what he called good. Okay, so that's how we changed something that was good. And he said he saw it was good. Who are you to change it and then say, now I'm going to call it good? Right. I think I can improve on what the Creator did. Right. All right. Well, we'll see how that works in a minute. All right. So being set apart requires conditions, right? Leviticus 22:32 says, neither shall you profane to kalu, right? But I will be kadosh, or set apart among the children of Yashrael. I am Yahuwah, which kadoshes you, or set apart, shall makes you set apart. That brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, or Egypt, to be your Elohim. Ani Yahuwah, I am Yahuwah. All right. So you cannot make yourself set apart, okay, outside of what he has already been called. So whatever he called set apart, that's what it is. You can't create something and say, this is now considered set apart. A lot of us do that, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with making laws as long as the laws is within his law, meaning there's some situation that's for one house, but it may not be for another house, right? But as long as you're not violating the Father's law, he says, I've given you dominion. Now, you can exercise dominion on the earth, but as long as you don't go outside of the boundaries that I have already set. Okay, is everyone good so far? All right, so etymology root for kalal means appears throughout the entire range of the Semitic languages, Aramaic, Akkadian, but it means to untie, to loosen, to be free, to set free, right? And then down to always mean, in its pure form, means profane or to desecrate. Okay, so when you set yourself free, or if you loosen or undo things that Scripture states, you cannot, or make yourself, you make yourself profane, right? So the Scripture states this, and you want to do something contrary to it, you can't call that set apart, okay? It becomes common. It becomes something that is now the opposite of set apart, okay? All right, so Yirmiyahu 31:5 says, you shall yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria. The planters shall plant, and he shall eat them as common things. It's translated there as common, right? So remember, set apart, the opposite of set apart is to make something common. And when you make that thing common, a common among everybody, a common thing, it's no longer set apart. So if, for an example, the Shabbat is set apart, if you say every day is Shabbat, he made Shabbat common. He's only set one day out of all days to be this way. But the minute he made first day, second day, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. I love him all day. So then you're saying that then there's no real meaning for Shabbat. It's no longer set apart. It's now common. It's among everything else, right? So you got to make a stance to say, no, when he says something is set apart, then it's set apart. All right. Amos 2:6-7 says, thus saith Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of Yashar Israel, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes. Now, it says the pant, or the desire, earnest desire, after the dust of the earth on the head of the poor, and to turn aside the way of the meek. Now, listen to what it says. And a man and his father will go in unto the same maid. What happens? How does it profane his name? The father and the son goes into the same woman. How does it profane his name? Okay. So remember, not only did he give you instructions, but we're supposed to be walking in his name, right? If his name is on you and you're out here representing, hallelujah, Yahuwah, he's the one. And then you're back there, hey, Pop, let's go do this. What ends up happening is the same one that you're out here saying all this stuff, just as it says in Ezekiel 36, where they profane my name. Now we have to make it honorable because of what we have done. Okay? All right. So Israel had a habit for sexually mistreating helpless female slaves. Such conduct shows disrespect for Yahuwah. Israel's inhuman conduct implicates the name of Yahuwah, so that other nations cease to respect it. Remember, the name of Yahuwah is on Israel. By defiling yourself, you can also defile his name. Okay? Your actions can cause stumbling blocks, especially when you do it in the name of Yahuwah. Okay? Is everyone with me so far? All right, so we are commanded to be Kadashim, right? We are commanded to be set apart. It says, and you shall be Kadashim unto me, for I, Yahuwah, am Kadosh, and having severed you from other people, that you should be mine. So I've separated you from all the people, all of the nations, so you can be mine. So if you're going to be mine, that means you got to operate in a certain way, right? You have to operate in being set apart. Okay. Now remember, the whole point of him giving all of these instructions, this is 2020. Remember, when we read earlier, is because what? All the other nations were doing these very things. So he said, I'm trying to separate you so that you wouldn't look like the other nations. Okay. And then ultimately, the whole objective was for us to help change those nations to actually operate in this way, right? But throughout the scriptures, throughout the Tanakh and everything, you just notice that Israel keeps changing to their ways. You don't see the opposite effect. You know, and here and there you do, but for the most part, you see Israel changing to whatever the nation. Hey, they got a king. I want a king, right? All right. Mhm. So where is the first mention of something being set apart? The creation, sir? In Bereshit? All right. It says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished and all of his hosts of them. On the seventh day, Elohim ended his work, which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and purified, because he has rested from all his work, which Elohim created and made. So we got first occurrence of it, right? All right, so we went over this last Shabbat, space and time, right? So in Elohim, there is no space and time, meaning there is no clock. He only created it in our world. When we became his people, he desired to make time for us. In doing so, it created a time for him. Example is the Shabbat, right? So now that he created it, we are now commanded to set apart that day in our lives to give him praise. He created feast days. Before the earth, there was no animal sacrificing, there was no harvesting, etc., right? But when the earth was created, it opened up communication for his creation. Now that time exists, he carved out a time for his people and nation or nations, if you want to sojourn among them. What comes out of this creation is righteousness, which equals obedience and creates set apartness, being separate. The opposite is true as well. By not doing righteousness, what it creates is disobedience. Disobedience creates evil. Okay, things made common and defiled. So when it says he created evil, in layman's terms is I created what you want to do. By default, me creating this also creates this. They're with me. So by not doing it, it automatically created something that is evil. Okay, so we'll talk about that next year on our Parshas. Anyway, remember in Bereshit and in Shemot, we should in the Parsha, the three things that were created. Remember, we talked about these things, right? Light and darkness, first day, right? That created matter, energy, and force. Okay, well, I mean, all this we'll talk about next year, 2020 in the land. All right, number two, waters and earth. This created space. Number three, the functioning of the luminaries, which created time. So all three things exist at one in Yahuwah, or, in Yahuwah is all in one, but it's separated in our time. All this stuff is different for us, but it's all one in him. Okay. All right. So being set apart helps us see two important things. Number one, when Yahuwah breathed in us all aspects of life, he gave us the ability to draw near to him. He has given us every tool to be successful. One of the ways in this Parsha is how we treat each other and how we share with each other. Okay? So if we're successful in that, we'll be successful in him. Right? We'll see that. Number two, another way is once a person has come to maturity, they need to have an independent relationship with the Creator. But if one stays on the milk and does not mature, this could cause problems for the person. So I'll give an example. If a parent is trying to teach their child how to grow and be on their own, but the parent does not remove themselves once he or she becomes an adult, that child could be damaged in their thinking process. You baby them, they're adult, now they're missing something. Okay. So once we are made mature in his word, we are to help others mature in their thinking or in the walk. Okay, so this principle is seen in what Yahuwah has done. He created a place for us. He is sharing what really belongs to him. And we are to be like him in righteousness. We're going to see that in just a minute. Okay, so how are we doing so far? All right, so that brings us to this here. Basic intro to the Feast of Yahuwah. Okay, so where do we start when we talk about feast days? What scriptures? Okay, everybody agrees, right? Hey.
Yeah, Leviticus 23.
All right, so you go right on there to this spot right here, right? Typically, we go to Leviticus chapter 23, right? All right, so I want to promote some thought in this brief intro to the feast. How about starting here? 22, 26, and 27. And you have spoken to Moshe and Moses, saying, when a bullock or a sheep or a goat is brought forth, then it shall be 7 days under the dam. I don't like that translation. And from the 8th day and then forth, it shall be accepted for an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. Okay, so let me just tell you why. The word the dam is not blood. The word in Hebrew for blood is dam. Here is the word for mother. Okay, aim, or some says im. But the point is, or is the word that literally means mother. So technically 7 days under the mother. Okay, and then from the 8th day henceforth it shall be accepted. All right, so now I want to present a pattern and possibly deeper meaning for the animals and the number pattern. First, we can define the words and then look at the verbal roots or actions of the word. From there, we will look at some patterns that may be helpful to some. All right, so how are we doing so far? So in other words, he's naming these animals, but these animals have reason. You know, he just didn't randomly pick these animals. I like that one there. You can use that one, right? There's something behind these animals, okay? All right, so the first one that we talked about was the bullock or the ox, right? The word there is shor, right? And it means bullock, but it says as a traveler, bullock, cow, ox. But it comes from 7788, primitive root properly to turn or to travel about. Okay, that's what the ox in this verbal means, to travel about. All right. Isaiah 1, chapter 1, verse 3 and 4 says the ox knows his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel does not know, my people does not consider. Our old sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken Yahuwah, they have provoked the Kedusha, set apart one of Yisrael or Israel, unto anger. They are gone away backwards. Okay, so the ox is defined as one who turns or travels. In this case, it was likened to Israel not knowing Yahuwah. Okay, however, in the scripture we just read, Israel strayed from their owner. Okay, so this portion here. The next one is, it said it was a lamb, right? So you had the ox, you had the lamb. Where there is kaseb, right, which apparently is translated as a young sheep or a lamb. In the Aramaic, this word means to go out or to flow. That's the point of it, to go out or to flow. Hosea 4:16 says, for Israel slides back as a backsliding heifer. Now Yahuwah will feed them as a lamb in a large place. And of course, the shepherd. Psalms are telling 23:1 says, Yahuwah is my shepherd, and I shall not want. So the relationship with the lamb to the shepherd is symbolic to us and Yahuwah. Everyone understands that, right? Everyone knows how a lamb operates. It's very, supposedly, I've seen some videos where they were not too faithful. But for the most part, lambs are pretty faithful to their shepherd, okay? Normally. All right, the next one is A's, right? And this one is talking about, it says a she-goat. Again, this is a Strong's Concordance deal, all right? But masculine and plural, which also is used specifically for goat hair, she-goat, kid, right? But Oz can refer without destructing both male and female, actually. And there are a bunch of scriptures that shows using the same word, but masculine, okay? So anyway, but its verbal root means what? Someone that is fierce, mighty, powerful, rough, strong, or greedy. Okay, so the three animals thus far means the ox that travels with his owner, lamb to flow or to go with their shepherd, a goat being strong and mighty, hence in Yahuwah. So note, these are clean animals that operate in a way Yahuwah wants us to see. The whole point of these animals is they're farmers, so they can see how the animals work. right? And when they go out there, they draw some love and affection to these animals, and they begin to see how they operate. Okay? So we see that they are set with a set of numbers, right? So you saw earlier, 7th day, 8th day. Everyone saw that earlier, right? All right, so before we do that, here's a list. Feast days, appointed times on the left. In the middle, observance times, and the scriptures on the right. So Shabbat, 7th day. After that, which is only one day, right? Regular weekly Shabbat, 7 and 1. Pesach is one day, first day of the month, on the 14th day. Divided 7 and 7 is still 14, right? Keep that in mind. Unleavened bread, 7th has what? 7 days in the unleavened bread, right? Still in the first month. Count of Shabbat, or Feast of Weeks, is 7 Shabbats, right? 49 plus 1 gives you the 50. Remember, 7 and the 1. But again, you're going to see that these numbers are going to be very important. Teruah, Feast of Trumpets, is day 1, the 7th month. Yom Kippur, or Atonement, is 1 day on the 7th month. But notice that Yom Kippur is also considered a Shabbat, right? Shabbat Shabbaton. Sukkot, or Feast of Tabernacles, 7 days long, right? It's on the 7th month. Last great day, 1 day on the 7th month. Sabbaticals, 7 years the land rests. 7 years of what? Think about the Shabbats. Jubilee, 49 Shabbats plus 1 year. These are a bunch of Shabbats, right? And then, of course, later on, when Yeshua gets good and ready, he's going to talk about the prophecies that falls on these days and the months. He got some places he can go to: Revelation, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Zechariah, Joel, Hosea, and the Torah. I mean, he got plenty of places to go ahead and get this thing started. Hallelujah. So I'll keep going. All right, so let's just look at this. Let's just look at this for a minute. Feast days. It says, and Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, or Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of Yahuwah. So whose feasts are they? Yahuwah's, which you shall proclaim to be Kadash, or Kadosh, set apart, convocation. Even these are my feast. 6 days shall work be done. So those are yours. You get 6 days, is all yours. I'm just talking about what belongs to him. But the 7th day is the Shabbat of rest, and it is what? Set apart convocation, right? It's Kadosh convocation. It's a gathering. It's a set apart gathering. You shall do no work. There, it is the Shabbat of Yahuwah in all your dwellings. Okay. Next part says, these are the feasts of Yahuwah, even the Kadosh, or set apart convocation, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. Okay. So what's interesting is, we're about to go into some numbers, but I always share this, again, there's no attack on any group that does this, but they always ask, why do you guys do the feast days a little bit differently in calculation? And if you think about it, if these numbers are set in stone, if we believe that they're set in stone, then that must mean that these numbers, no matter what, if I can't see it, the number still stands. So if it's raining, if it's cloudy, if you can't see the moon or the stars, understand this number doesn't change, right? Everyone gets me so far. All right. So on the 14th day of the first month at evening is Yahuwah's Pesach, or Passover. Okay, so we saw the chart, so I'm just letting you read it now so we can get this address. And on the 15th day of the same month, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And how long? 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. Then it even tells you further that the first day shall be a kadosh, or a set apart convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. And then it says, but you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah 7 days. And the 7th day is a set apart convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. So everyone sees that you're going to see these numbers are going to keep repeating itself. So that lets us know that there's something about sevens, something about 1. There's something about these things, right? 23:15 says, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Shabbats shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after 7 Shabbats shall you number 50 days. And you shall offer a new meat offering, or mincha offering, unto Yahuwah. So again, it's 7 Shabbats, right, will be 49 plus 1, right? 50th day. 24 says, speak unto the children of Israel, saying to the 7 months, on the 7th month, and the first day of the month shall you have a Shabbat, a memorial blowing of the trumpets, a Kadush, or a set-apart convocation. Also on the 10th of the day, this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement, Yom Kippur. It shall be a Kodesh convocation unto you, and you shall afflict your soul and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. Okay, this is called a Shabbat Shabbaton. So notice it's linked to the sevens. We'll see that in just a minute. Speak unto, this is 23:34, speak unto the children of Yashrael Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall the feast of tabernacles. How long? 7 days unto Yahuwah. And then it says, on the first day shall be a set-apart convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. 36 says, 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. And on the 8th day shall be a set-apart convocation to Yahuwah, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. It shall be a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work. So the thing is, I want you to see that this is not my job. This is probably going to be Yasharon's job. Right here is also the same way you do the animal. 7 days to the mother on the 8th day. Okay, so see if you can make a link. We'll keep going. 25:2. Speak unto the children of Yashrael Yisrael or Israel, and say unto them, when you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Shabbat. Now not just you, now the land, right? The land's gonna keep a Shabbat. 6 years, like you would work 6 days. This is now 6 years. Shall sow your field, and in the 6th year you shall prune your vineyard and gather in the first fruits. But in the 7th year shall be a Shabbat of rest unto the land, and Shabbat for Yahuwah. You shall neither sow your field nor prune your vineyard. So this right here is now mirroring the weekly Shabbat, right? So you're gonna see how they're now. You're gonna start seeing more of what's in the weekly. And in the weekly feast, the yearly feast, you're going to start seeing now it's also in these other feasts. Verse 8 says, and you shall number 7 Shabbats of years. So again, these sevens is connected of years unto you 7 times 7 years, right? 49 years. And the space of 7 Shabbats of years shall be unto you 49 years, right? So what does that mirror? Should we, well, this is going to be Jubilee, but what feast does this mirror? You just said it, right? Feast of Weeks, Shavuot, right? 49, and then on the 50th, right? Now you're seeing this in years, which is now mirroring the Jubilee. So I'm saying these are patterns that you're going to have to catch. All right. 10 says, and you shall produce the 50th year. Remember, the other one was the 50th day. Now we're the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession, and shall return every man unto his family. So again, this is very interesting. If you can put this with the yearly feast days, you'll start getting a bigger prophecy, a bigger pattern. Huh? Right. Right, because you're going to now start seeing this Jubilee is also on atonement, right? So something happens where these things are all linked together. Okay. So things, remember about the feast is all the feasts and appointed times are centered around the Shabbat. Okay. They are type or kinds of Shabbats. What Shabbat is to the week, these feast days are to the year. Okay, or years. All the feasts and appointed times are centered around the number 7 and 1. So before or after the cycle. So you see if it's 14, one after is 15. If you see 7, one after is 8. You see a 6, then one after that is 7. All of them are centered this way. Okay, so calculation and season, appointed times must agree, right? So you can't be your pure observation. That's all I need, because your observation could be wrong. That's why he gets the numbers. So it has to be with both of them. All right, they are all appointed in their proper season and time. So the cycles up in this heavens or the Shamayim gives you your seasons, but it also gives you your time to calculate too. You got to have both. Number 4, coming to Yahuwah is centered around a harvest. Okay, all feast talks of a gathering, right? All your 3 times a year don't come empty hand. They're talking of a gathering, but this is a physical, and there's going to be talking about a spiritual gathering the same way. So they're all linked, right, to the end time prophecies as well. They are called Kodesh or Kadash for some, which is linked to Yahuwah and his people. So you must be set apart, meaning he's told you have to do these feasts so that you're in line with what's going to happen on these days. Okay. All feasts are signs. Okay. And what link does Leviticus 22:27 have with what we just went over? I just told you, so we don't have to worry about that part. And just in case you remember, this is when the bullock or the sheep or the goat brought forth in the same day, 7th day. Remember, we talked about that. Then I put on here 7 days with mother, 8th day to Yahuwah. Just keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So the mother can spend 7 days with her child, and on the 8th day be offered. Are we seeing the animals experience in Shabbat? Okay, if not, I just know Yeshurun's going to knock that right out the box. Okay, and we do see the cycles of 7 and 1. Hallelujah. All right, so the Shabbat. It says, and on the 7th day, Elohim ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he made. And Elohim blessed the 7th day and purified it, because that in it he had rested from all his works which Elohim created and made, right? Or created and made. Did Yahuwah have to rest? Was he tired? What does this Shabbat commemorate?
What they call a Noah or refreshment, or I'm going to use it. Hold on. All right, so like it was a refreshment, or it was just first of all, it was an example for us, and it was what they call Noah refreshment. He basically was like he's what he did for a lot of us.
Okay, so we would say, hey, he's not like us, but we need some rest from all our work. But how can we prove this?
Whatever way it goes, it was man who made it.
Okay, but how do we know about him not tired? How do we know he didn't? How do we know he needed stuff for his work? I mean, he said, listen, I worked this out. Did it say he get tired? Don't get tired.
It says he doesn't stumble or sleep. So
That means he can keep working.
I mean, he admired, he stood back and admired his work and seen that it was good. So it was more of an admiration for all that he done.
Okay. So you have a scripture, or?
Yeah, take this.
Okay, somewhere. We're on it now. Now we're on it. All right, so we're going to see. I'm just asking questions. Right now I'm just asking questions. All right, here we go. So we rest because he rested. So we fundamentally, how does this work? We see the starting point of being set apart is because he is set apart. Remember, this is how this works, right? All right. When you read that Elohim ended his work on the 7th day and he rested on the 7th day, could this be a problem? Why not?
If you say rest as an English term, then yes. But if you say
Okay, not that. If he worked on the 7th day and rested on the 7th day.
No, that don't work. He rested on he finished his work on the 6th day and rested on the 7th day.
And on the 7th day, Elohim ended his work. Okay. All right. So everyone sees that good, but someone say, hey, listen, this is what it says. Right? Can anyone change what it says?
No.
It's a mistranslation. All right. So I'm going to give you some options. Okay. You're going to read these options yourself, but I just want you to see something from a Masoretic text standpoint and then from a textual standpoint, right? So, yes, Samaritan, Pentateuch, Aramaic, Peshitta, the Greek lexicon, all have 6th day there, not 7th day. Okay? While the Masoretic text has the 7th day. This passage has not survived in the Dead Sea Scrolls manuscript. This portion is kind of burnt out. My point is that if you get other witnesses, they'll say, hey, that's not right. Right? However, so I said, why would the Masoretic text have seventh day? Elohim ended and rested on the same day. Why did they do that? Now, if you did not have any other translation, if you didn't know, when you read this passage, did Yahuwah work on the Shabbat?
Well, according to what we read, yeah.
If you had no other translation.
You would think so, yeah.
Okay, is everyone with me so far?
But wouldn't it be a contradiction though? Because if you go back to the commandments tell us that he rested on the seventh day.
Okay.
In Exodus. So there would be a
Right.
contradiction.
But I'm saying, so we'll say, man, that's contradiction.
Right.
All right, so that's why I said there's another way that one could look at it and see if it's a contradiction. I'm going to see if this is a contradiction looking at it this way. So everyone's with me so far? All right. So the answer could be yes, right? But it is also states he rested on this day as well. So what is going on? Right? So commemorating states, some commentators states that there is a way for both to be true. Okay, they state that Yahuwah created rest by not doing anything. Okay, he finished and blessed the day that he ceased from work. So they're saying by him not doing nothing on that day, or on this day, they say that automatically created a rest on that day. Okay, if you're asking me, I think that it's a mistranslation simply because all older texts shows that it was sixth day. But if you don't want to agree with none of the text, one looks at it as, well, hey, he created the Shabbat by not doing anything. Therefore, that's created a day. Right? Is everyone with me so far? All right. So what type of rest is this? A nothing rest or a something rest?
Like a comfort rest.
Okay.
Done.
Okay, so nothing rest or something rest? I'm talking about the creator. For us, we know what it is, but for the creator, is it nothing rest or is it something rest? Okay, no worries. So Yahuwah would not need to rest in a way that he was tired, right? His rest is very unique. His rest is from something that can be found in the text. 23 says, and Elohim blessed the seventh day and purified it, right? Because that in it he had rested from all his work, which Elohim created and made. But there's two words for work. There's this one here, which is melacha, and the one is aboda, or some says avoda. Okay, what is the difference between the two words? Now, I'm going to just let you know up front, this is the one he did, okay? This is the one we do. All right, so we're going to define this. So, aboda, or as some say avoda, work is being bondage, bondservant, labor. This is that type of work that we do, okay? Now, Melacha is more of deputyship, ministry, employment, never servile. Okay? So how is this going to help us out as to what we need to understand? Because we got to do both. So how do we do both? We'll see in just a minute. So he was perfecting. After perfecting it, he then called it good. So this type of work is what you do in your mind, and it's manifested into the physical. Okay, so we're going to see, I'm just going to tell you up front, there's a physical work, and then there's a work that you do in your mind that you need to rest from. Okay, there's two types of work. 58:13 says, if you turn away your foot from the Shabbat, from doing your pleasures on my set apart day, these pleasures is done where? First, in your mind. All right, and then it says, and call the Shabbat a delight, the set apart of Yahuwah, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasures, nor speaking your own words, coming out of the mind, right? Then this Shabbat becomes a delight. So it starts to mirror the Father's because he's sharing with you a physical and something that's mental, okay? Sometimes we don't have mental rest, okay? Sometimes we still got our wheels turning even on Shabbat. But this rest is supposed to be his day. So why are we doing all this other stuff and thinking about, man, as soon as Shabbat is down, I can make me some money. I can do this. I can do that. Your mind is not at rest. It's not thinking on the Creator. Okay? All right. So your mind should be at rest. Yahuwah cut the strings, if you will, from creating to allow it to function on its own. Okay? He allowed creation to function independent of himself. This is what he did that day. He can now enjoy what he created. It can relate back to him. We can have a relationship now. So basically, I'm fine tuning this. All right, what else could I do? Like someone that's a musician or a painter, something like that, right? Oh man, I could make this painting a little bit better. And they keep jazzing it up. But at some point, once you see what you like, you stop. That's kind of the same thing here. All right.
So is that like the same thing for the rest that he did? That what you just explained? Rest that he did?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that's the melachah. That's the rest he did.
Okay.
All right. So 19. Okay. So now we're going to the next part. Familiar spirits or mediums. Can someone tell me a little bit about these things? Familiar spirits, mediums, anyone? They're demonic. Okay. All right. So
here in San Antonio,
you got some in San Antonio?
we have a lot of kind of, you heard of the Mexican phrase called curandero?
No.
Curanderos
I'm a Hebrew.
They're like, a lot of people seek after them, for fortune telling, for casting spells, to actually sometimes, cause somebody to fall in love with you. And they seek these guys, and you'll see all their little, and they tarot card readers, stuff like that. And I'm going to say is that pretty much the same thing you're talking about?
Yeah, it's similar. It's similar to it.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to see a little bit more about familiar spirits. Okay. First, we'll start with the etymology of the word. Anyone care to read? You got to need a microphone if you do. No worries. I'll read it. You need a microphone if you do. You need a microphone if you do. You need a microphone if you do.
I'll read it, Maury. I'm online.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay.
At the least 3 views.
Uh-oh. Okay, go ahead.
At the least 3 views of the etymology of ob has been suggested. According to one view, ob is the same word that means a bottle made out of skins, which holds wine. In Ayob or Job 32:19, this would mean that the technique of necromancy was labeled, ventriloquism. The LXX used gastronos, ventriloquist in all passages except Isaiah 29:4, where ob me'eretz is rendered by hoi phanotis, ekeskes, the one called out of the earth. Sometimes the Vulgate reads magus, sorcerers.
Okay. All right. And then you have the scriptures if you guys just want to look those things up on your own. All right. So how do we, so far, are we good? All right. So what's a ventriloquist? What does that do? Okay, they don't move their mouth, and they're putting it inside.
Someone else.
Right. All right. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to see this example in a minute, but I want us to see here, though, is where this stuff is coming from. So these are older we'll go over a little bit more some other places, but this is what they understood it to be back in the day. Okay, so we're going to see a little bit more. So the oldest reference to pit, okay, in connection with sacrifice are to be found in the Sumerian version of the Gilgamesh epic, where when we learn that Gilgamesh dug a pit in the ground, and out of it he called forth the spirit, Lil, of his dead companion, Enkidu, right? So, but look at the word here. What's this word look like? Ab as in father. Okay, so keep that in mind because there's a root of this. There's a reason for this spirit a familiar spirit to have this as a root. Okay, mind you, this is it here. I just want you to take a look at this. See if you can link it to this. Okay, there's a relationship there. Can anyone guess what that relationship is? Okay, no worries. We'll see it in just a minute. All right, so after the sacrificial animals, at this time mostly was hogs and dogs, they will lower these things down into the pit. So this is how they would call out these spirits. Okay, they had to dig a pit. That's why. Anyway, so it was lowered somewhere below in the pit, slaughtered. Two of the objects lowered into the pit, we won't talk about what those things are, symbolizes the twofold intentions of the entire procedure. The silver model of an ear indicates the wish of the officer here. So I'll just tell you that one part. They would chop up some ears and they put it down in the pit because they want whoever's down in the pit to hear what they got to say. All right, and to learn from the inhabitants of the underworld. Two words, Ob and Teraphim. Teraphim are to be identified as a mantic, which means a prophet of divination. Okay, properties of the underworld. Okay, there are properties of the underworld. So those that do this are property of the underworld, just like a prophet of Yahuwah. They're the property of Yahuwah. Is everyone with me so far? So they have prophets. The Father has prophets. Okay, you had something?
I was thinking, I was looking at it from a pictographic standpoint of view, and I don't know if this is correct or how I'm seeing it, but when I see Father, I'm seeing, the strength of the house, but then with all the strength connected to the house, that would be something secondary or under that's trying to, if we're thinking about ventriloquists, in the demonic aspect, it would be trying to get the person to consider that, this is just like the Father actually, or this is the Father, and I'm putting these words into this thing, or putting his words on something that's not there.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that's where you were going.
Absolutely. Okay. So the underworld in which it was thought that the source of true knowledge was to be found. So why do they think the source of true knowledge is found down there? So here it is. The point of them desiring to connect with the underworld was to connect with those that have walked the earth. Your ancestor. The Hebrew word for ancestor is the same word for father. Okay? So get wisdom from them to help them in what they are going through. You need a microphone, you said? I didn't hear you. Okay.
We ain't supposed to be praying to the ancestors.
No.
We can't call upon the ancestors.
No, I do see some cartoons. I call on the beast of such and such. They come right on out, right? No. Yeah.
I'm just trying to, this is
oh yeah, I gotta show it to you.
This is to get to the familiar.
They'll call on the spirit of the lion, and they get the strength of the lion. They call on it. Is that what it is? There's another one. It's an old one, I'm telling you.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, they'll call on it, they turn it, and yeah. They call on it. Give me strength beyond strength, something, I don't know. All right. Yeah, all that mum-ra comes up and all that good stuff, right? All right. So their desires to get wisdom, all right? So keep that in mind. So it offers them the ability to learn what the afterlife is like. So not only are they asking for help as to what's going on, because they say, hey, my fathers or forefathers went through this. If I can get to them and they can teach me how they got through it, it can get me through it. But then also, if they're coming from the underworld, They can even tell me about the afterlife, right? So anyway, what will come in the future? Why? Because there's no time down there, right? So anyway, because there is no time in that realm, the word Ob is connected with Ab or father, which means the father or ancestor. Anything being summoned by familiar spirits, wizard, etc., comes with a spirit. It's always attached with a spirit. So spirit operates in the vessel like a prophet or a prophetess. Okay. Some research believes women are perfect hosts for familiar spirits because they know how to hold things. Okay. Someone has something?
Yeah, quick question. All right. So clearly it's not okay to pray to the ancestors, right? But is it okay to ask for like strength of my ancestors? Like an example.
So you watch Thundercats too?
Low.
Okay.
Low. For example, you see how like I ask for the spirit of Elijah to be on him as well, to move in that same strength and that same power that he walked in.
Right.
Is it okay for us to do the same thing? Was he not in transgression for doing that?
No, remember the mantle was given, it was the spirit of the father that was given to him.
Right.
And so he wanted to have it, just like I said, the spirit of Eliyahu.
Okay.
Technically, it's not really Eliyahu, it's the spirit that he placed on Eliyahu, which is from the father.
So it's okay for us to, because I personally do that.
Oh,
stop
well,
it.
We got some anointing oil back there.
I'm just keeping it a buck. I'm just keeping it a buck.
No worries. Yeah.
I had one question. Well, not one question. It may provoke some thought as far as make me think of Malak Shaul and with the witch in Endor, and he tried to call. Okay.
So Maury, this whole system, this is a false mimic of the Most High.
Right.
All of this is a mimic of the opposite of the spirit of the Most High. Instead of when we pray, we give a praise and glory unto the Most High. Now it's reversed when these things are done. It is the opposite. So the opposite of the Most High is Shaitan.
Right. It's the adversary. He remember, he wants to be like him. The things that he has that works, that he knows it works because that's what the Most High wants. Why? He's a perfect mirror of what I would want, so to speak, in his mind. So he says, hey, I want to do the same thing he's doing and give me that same thing that you got, I got. So you have your father.
So based on the question that Shaul just asked about the King Shaul at that time, when we read the scripture, it seemed like he literally invoked Shamuel.
Well, we're gonna read it.
Right. So was there a spirit behind that, or was it like actually Shamuel? Because he's saying like, why are you disturbing me? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
so,
we're gonna read it.
And he's telling him, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, we're gonna read it. Right.
The key is just why they're doing it for, right? That's the key that everybody's like missing over. Like even in the ancient African ways or this thing right there, it's just because of what they want from these spirits. They want wisdom from these spirits. Where we have it, if anyone needs wisdom, you're supposed to ask him. He gives freely. So you see the error of where it's coming from. The error is coming from what their intentions for getting it for is.
Right. So remember, like last week, we were talking about how these Malachim, fallen ones come and they were given information to the people that they weren't supposed to have. Whereas with the Father, he's going to give it to you when you're ready for it. In other words, he gives you what you need, not what you necessarily always desire or want, right? And so that's the problem as well. But with the underworld, as is commonly understood, there is more to it, meaning they're not going to give it to you for free. There is something that's attached to this information, right? And some be it wealth, some be it whatever it is that is attached to it, it's there. And they have to recognize that. All right. 1 Samuel 28:3, right? Everyone was going to read this, right? So now Shemuel, as a common called Samuel, was dead. And all Yisrael had lamented him and buried him in Ramah. Okay, so they know where he was buried. Okay, now, even in his own city, right? And Shaul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizard out of the land. He did good, right? At first. Anyway, Now, keep in mind, anyway, I'll keep going. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shemin, and Shaul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Shaul saw the host of the Philistines, he saw that army, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Shaul inquired of Yahuwah answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by nor by prophets. Why? How come he didn't answer? Anyone know?
He was already cut off. It's one of the reasons he was out, like chasing the anointed David, wanted to kill him.
Okay, so we're going to read one of the reasons in just a minute. And then said Shaul unto his servant, seek me a woman that has a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, behold, there is a woman that has a familiar spirit at Endor. Okay, so she has this spirit. See what I'm saying? So you say, hey, is it a spirit? Yes, it's actually a spirit. All right, remember, there's a connection to this. The spirit is connecting to two worlds. So when you get with this familiar spirit, it's familiar with certain things. But we'll keep going. And Shaul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray you, divine unto me by the familiar spirit. What is he asking? We're going to see what that word divine means in a minute. Okay, Kasam, we're going to see what that means. And bring me him up. Where is he coming from? Up out the earth. He's coming from, quote unquote, underworld, as they would say, right? Whom I shall name unto you. Okay. And the woman said unto him, behold, you know what Shaul has done, how he has cut off those that have familiar spirits and wizards out of the land. Wherefore then lay you a snare for my life to cause me to die. So mind you, she don't even know who he is yet, right? So mind you, when she taps into that spirit, it then tells her who he is, right? So anyway, 10 it says, then Shaul swore to her by Yahuwah, saying, as Elohim lives, there shall no punishment happen to you for this thing. And you got to think about what Shaul is just telling her, right? What does it say? The soul that turns after such have familiar spirits and after wizards to go a-whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people. Mind you, this is what he's doing. He know the law. Why? Because all kings must write down the Torah. So he already knows this is wrong, right? So anyway, but he needs to know because he's scared. And he needs to figure out what's going to happen. Oh, yeah. Verse 11 says, then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto you? And he said, bring me Shemuel. That's who I need to talk to. So, and when the woman saw Shemuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spoke to Shaul, why have you deceived me? For you are Shaul. And the king said unto her, be not afraid. Why? He says, for what saw you? What did you see? He can't see it. Yeah, right. She is seeing it. She's tapping into that spirit. The spirit's starting to show her things, right? So it's now being this liaison thing, if you will, or this ventriloquist thing. All right, anyway, so, and the woman said unto Shaul, I saw mighty ones or gods or Elohim ascending out of the earth. Now, this is in the plural and the verb is in the plural. These are spirits, mighty ones go in and out of the earth. He said, man, I see these things, right? And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old Zachain comes up, and he covered with a mantle, with a robe, and Shaul perceived that it was Shemuel. And he stopped with he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. Mm-hmm. And Shemuel said to Shaul, why have you disquieted me to bring me up? So he knows he was down and he came up, right? And disquieted him. There was a shaking. There's a vibe. I don't add, take away. Okay. But remember, there's a liaison in between this. That's what I'm saying. There's a spirit in between all of this going on, right? So, and Shaul answered, I am so distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and Elohim is departed from me, and answers me no more, neither by prophet nor by dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may make known unto me what I should do. Then Shemuel, wherefore then do you ask of me? Seeing what? Yahuwah is departed from you and is become your enemy. There's no way in the world that I would be messing with that, right? The minute Yahuwah becomes your enemy, stand clear. Remember, he said, just stand clear. Let the earth take out Korach and his whole family. So keep that in mind. Anyway. So, verse 29:4 says, and you shall be brought down. This is, Isaiah, Yeshahu, think about this, Yeshahu 29:4. It says, you shall be brought down and shall speak out of the ground. And your speech shall be low out of the dust, and your voice shall be as of one that has a familiar spirit out of the ground. Right? Tells you how they were speaking. Your speech shall be whispers or chirps out of the dust. So it's an audible manifestation of this thing. Okay? So this is how this is happening. So we'll keep going. So the spirit ascends, right, or Allah, right, which you see in these three places, from the ground, and undoubtedly comes forth from a prepared opening. This is how they did it back in the day. Okay? Remember, he said the divine of the familiar spirit, right? This is the word there, right? Kasam. So basically, there's magic or some type of divination is what they did in this process. Okay, is everyone with me so far? So you can't just, well, we'll keep going. There's some things you got to do. Okay, I'll leave it there. All right, so this is not what I'm going to get into this time, but just to give you an idea of something, you know, how they would view this from a standpoint, water above, water below, the great deep, Sheol, under the earth. This is our plane, if you will. It talks about the windows of heaven, the stars. So then at the bottom, you see all the scriptures for that. So if you guys want to take your own time to put the video on pause when it goes live, you guys can do all that yourself.
That a flat earth.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You want to learn a flat earth model? Well, right. So Leviathan deal. Yeah, so there's just a drawing that they have, you know. I tell people, you know, like flat earth, round earth, the whole point to me is when you look up, you're going to see the same thing. Okay? So anyway, we'll keep going. So remember, it was a Ob and a teraphim, right? So these are some archaeological findings of a teraphim right here, right? So they're considered household mighty ones or gods, specifically figurines. Okay, they were used as healers, protectors, and for good luck. Okay, that was their job. So think about, remember I said, what happened with Shaul, right? So it says, for rebellion is as sin as what? Witchcraft. Listen to this, it says stubbornness. It is what? As iniquity and idolatry. This word is teraphim. Right. Mm-hmm. So I want you to understand that these teraphims are these stubborn things that deals with iniquity. That's what these teraphims are for. Now, but they'll help you out, so many words, as long as you give them what they want. But the point is, it's just the same, this parallel. Because you have rejected the word of Yahuwah, he has also rejected you from being king. Right? So it says, and Shaul said unto Shemuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandments of Yahuwah. Right? That's the first thing he did. And then it says, in your words, right? Why? Because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. See, very bad. Right? So how do you transgress? By, if the people are not speaking the word, that becomes their word. It becomes that now all of a sudden you want to bounce their words off of the Father's word. If it don't match, you're going to have a problem. Okay? So again, He feared the people. He obeyed their voice. He didn't obey the voice of Yahuwah. So he transgressed Yahuwah by hearing their voices. So they now started taking control, so to speak, right? Mind you, he knew the Torah. All right, so 1911. Shaul also sent messengers unto David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. And Michal, David's Isha, wife, told him, saying, if you save not your life tonight, tomorrow you shall be slain. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took a teraphim and laid it in the bed, and put a pillow of the goat's hair for his bluster, and covered it with a cloth. Okay. Another place you can read about teraphim is, for the teraphim has spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie and have told false dreams. They comfort in vain, therefore they went their way as a flock. They were troubled because there was no shepherd. Remember, who's supposed to be Israel's shepherd is the Most High. So there's a relationship between a sheep and a shepherd. But if you don't have a shepherd, you're left with using all kinds of other devices to do that, right? So it says, what is the common theme in all scriptures we read? Israel seeks answers. Why? Comfort from other mighty ones. So this is where they're getting their answers from. They're not getting it from Yahuwah, so they're going to seek it from another place, right? They reject the word of Yahuwah. Not only that, our own people use it alongside Yahuwah. Okay? So remember what he said? Right? Okay. So we sometimes entertain these things when one cannot find the answer they are looking for in the word, or want a different answer to suit their needs.
The thing that gets me is that these are people that dwell among us, or we consider Akim and the Kotis, that may be practicing or carrying these. It wasn't going out really outside the nation. It seemed like it's stuff that was happening among us. Or we get into a situation where we are right now, and the people say, "Oh yeah, I believe," and then they come in and they're still practicing this type of witchcraft.
Right. So it doesn't matter community, outside of community.
Yeah.
Their surroundings. They always yearned after their surroundings. Remember, the opening of the Parsha basically was about what all these other nations are doing. And I mean, down to think about Raquel, right? When they were leaving, she took her father's household mighty one with her. Put it in, you'll see that this thing is everywhere. I think it's like 15 times in the Tanakh concerning the teraphim, and how Israel uses these things over and over again. Even after, it's like a disrespect to the father, because he's like, I'm your Elohim, but yet you guys won't search these other mighty ones. It's like these other things are like, well, if Yahuwah is not going to give it to me, they'll give it to me.
So where do we draw the line? You have things that we do.
You kill them. Oh, okay.
In other words, we had Urim and Thummim, like the priests. Right? There were crystals or rubes or orbs. We had the breastplates. We had different things. Yahuwah said that these are things of pictures of things that was in models of things within heaven, in the Shamayim. Where should we be putting our menorah up there and praying to our menorahs? Or what about those crystals and things?
Okay.
How do they? Because some people want to, you might, like you say, we'll take this and go along with you. We think we're doing something more spiritual than norm.
Because
how do we know the difference?
Well, when they're reading the scriptures, they know that the Urim and Thummim, for example, was given to the high priest. So they know that the Most High was operating in the high priest, right? Things that we do today, I mean, if we're trying to compare back then versus now, what he set up is what he honors, is what he has set apart. We can't create things and then make it set apart, right? So today, for example, there's relationship, there's teachers, there's ways of praying and fasting and meditation, prophets, things like that. These are the way he communicates with us today. Some things he may use other nations to bless you. And you'll just say, man, this is Yahuwah. This sometimes you have that, you feel that it is the Father within you because things are going a certain way. So there are ways that he does communicate, but you remember with these things, then we move over to Mashiach. He says, oh, you wicked generation, seek after a sign. It's always looking for a sign for something. He's like, we don't need that anymore, right? So it becomes, why can't you just simply be obedient? What else are you looking for, right? If I already know what you want, all I need you to do is be obedient, and then I will bless you. Now, whatever he bless you with, then you know it is of him. But if you know the adversary do a blessing, you know there's always something that comes with it. There's always a consequence for what he does. Mhm. You say you need a mic?
I'm gonna try to find a better solution.
Okay, yeah, because I was just going to say, like, I think the difference of what you just pronounced is that some people are using it to make a connection with spirits, whereas like let's just take, for instance, crystals, amethyst or something like that. We know these are natural crystals of the earth, but what are they used for? What are their purpose for? How does that help? That has nothing to do with your relationship between you and the Most High.
Mhm.
It's about what heals in the earth, or what natural is, like water. We need water, but we don't need to pray to water.
Mhm.
But we need water. You know what I mean? So that's the part I think that makes a difference. Like, that's where I would draw the line.
Oh,
People
water,
think
give
they're
me
using
thirst.
something to divine
They
with
just drink the water.
instead of using things.
Thank
to
you, Father.
just
That is
heal
all you
themselves.
right there.
Like,
You lift my
Where you draw
hand.
the line at.
Put that water in my mouth.
Right.
No.
Right.
But I'm not,
But I'm not praying that it's water or what's in this water to help me connect to the Most High.
I say some incantation over it or something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Make myself.
Yeah, like I said, some things is simply, you remember Mashiach gave a really excellent way of doing things. Some things come by fasting and praying, right? And then some things says, oh, you have little faith. Some things come by your faith, So from that point forward, you start seeing that if you believe something and you walk in, and you believe that, as Torah says, if you do these things, you'll be blessed. And if you don't, you won't get a blessing, you'll be cursed. So we know what we can do to be blessed. But a lot of the stuff that we deal with today, either dealing with money, your condition that you're in, doctrine, diseases, it's what you're in that they're looking for help for. If you're in an abusive relationship, whatever it is that you're in, that's what they're looking for help in. And then when they're at the lowest moment and they really feel like they ain't hearing from the Father, then they start reverting to, they left themselves literally open to accept anything. By doing that, that's when they get you at your lowest moment. You hear something?
Yeah. So my thing was based on what the brother was just saying, but it's people that are deceased, like, people that I admire from the past or read a lot about, like His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie. The Rastafarian revere him as a Elohim, as God, but I don't see him that way. So is it like, I'm not asking permission, but like, how would the Father view this if I have a picture or a poster of him in my place, or Bob Marley with the herb or something like that? How does that translate into idolatry? I don't think it's, in my mind, it's not anything that's, necessarily, like, I'm not following that. But like, I just don't want to make an error in my thinking or my way. With a rifle.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something different, or like on a, Because if
so the point of you having, let's say, Selassie up there,
he's a great king,
He's a great king, so
yeah.
So that's why you have, because he's a great king.
Yeah, I'm not worshiping the guy. I don't think he's Elohim like the rest.
Pictures of our ancient kings on our ancient shackles.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we was worshiping them. It's just an honoring, but not a worshiping thing. So I don't think that's anything wrong, Aki, personally. Okay.
You got one too?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay, we're almost done. I promise you, we're almost there. If we can just get to this last part. All right, we're at 2 Kings, Malachi Bet 23:23. It says, and in the 18th year of King, and this is Oshiyahu, or as it says, Josiah, I believe, wherein the Passover Passover was holding unto Yahuwah in Jerusalem. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits and wizards and images which is teraphims and idols, and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Yehuda and in Jerusalem did Yoshiyahu put away, that he might perform the words of the law, which were written in the book of Hilkiah, which we don't have that book, the priest found in the house of Yahuwah. And look unto him, was there no king before him that turned to Yahuwah with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to all the laws of Moshe and Moses? Neither after him arose there any like him. Notwithstanding, Yahuwah turned not from the fierceness of his great wrath, wherewith his anger was kindled against Yehuda, because of all the provocations of Manasseh had provoked him withal. And Yahuwah said, I will remove Yehuda also out of my sight, as I have removed Yisrael Israel, and will cast off this city, Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. So we know, we read other places where he says, I have to choose Jerusalem again, right? So anyway.
Yeah, said that some people use the Ruach, but it contradicts scripture. So it's another book.
Right. So you'll know the Ruach, just like I said, you know the fruits by somebody, it's the same principle. You know, if it goes against the Father's word, then that's not the right spirit. You're entertaining another spirit. Okay? Yeah, or sometimes people put the Father in stuff that when you ask them for an address, you don't have one. Right? That's bad. Because you're pushing his name, you're making his name in vain, you know what I mean, by doing that. Yeah, he said this, this, and that. Well, where'd you read that? He told me. Oh, really? Because a lot of people back in the day, if someone told you, if you say, oh, Yah told me, or you say, God told me, then everybody shut up. Oh, well, if God told you, we leave it alone, because that's thus saith Theos. I mean, God. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Leviticus 20. We'll wrapping this up really fast. Leviticus 20, verse 6 through 8 says, and the soul that turns after such as familiar spirits and after wizards to go whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from being among his people. Purify yourselves, therefore, and be you Kodesh, or set apart, for I near Yehu Elohecha. I am Yehu your Elohim, and you shall keep my statutes and do them. I am Yahuwah, which purifies you. Right? Keep this in mind. So, what makes you purified? Okay, so we first know that who does it? Yahuwah does it, but how does he do it? As everyone says, Ephesians 5:24 through 26 says, therefore, as the called out ones of the assembly is subject unto Mashiach, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. In everything, right? Husbands, love your wives, even as Mashiach also loved the called out ones or the assembly and gave him for it, that he might purify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. Okay? That's what you need. All right? So purifying starts with his word, his laws, commandments, etc. But listen, it has to be what? Operating in you. You can read it all day. Oh, man, I did my reading today. I'm good. And I read it yesterday. Oh, man, I've been reading all year. I went off the Parsha. I read it, every one of it throughout the whole year. But if it's not operating in you, you're going to have a problem, right? So once you can achieve and adhere to it, then purifying can be done in you. Okay? All right. Yes, Shealot. Huh? All right. So all hearts and minds is clear? Huh? All hearts and minds is clear? We good?
Hold it.
Uh-huh.
So the witch at Endor, was that really Shamuel that was brought up, or was it another spirit?
Well, most would say it's it was his spirit that was brought up, not so much, you know what I mean, because the flesh is flesh, that goes to the earth.
Right.
But however, you remember, I'm not sure if you remember because I'm not sure if you saw that video, but so we talked about last year how we are made. We have Kai, we have life, we have a Nefesh, we have Neshama, we have a Ruach, we have a lot of things that makes us who we are. And one of those things was conjured up, I'll say it that way.
Okay. Do you remember what video that was?
I think it was the Bereshit series.
Anyone in particular?
Okay,
What
yeah.
chapter?
Well, it would be in, we did that. Also did that with the animals. Yeah. So the one we did in Shemot this year, actually, and then there was one we did last year, but it's in Bereshit. Just read between chapter 1 and chapter 2. You're going to see what he breathed into us. You're going to see a Neshama. You're going to see Kai. You're going to see all that stuff. But it's on the one that we did in Shemot when we was comparing the animals. We were doing an animal comparison.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes, I'm not. He need a mic. Oh, you good? Okay. Yeah.
I had one question. It was I remember reading in one of the I guess extra canonical books, and it was talking about, I don't know how accurate it is, but it was talking about the time frame it takes from which if a person passes away or if they go to sleep, the time it takes for them to reach their final destination, and then you can call them before that time, within that time frame. I'm trying to remember which book it was. I have to, I guess offline at one point I have to look in my notes, but it spoke about that a person could get called back in between that time. They don't come back to life, but they could be, I guess, the person who's going to conjure them up and bring what they could ask them within that time frame. And it's spoke about 2 different places each soul went, I guess, or whatnot. So
Okay.
that was it.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, all hearts and minds is clear. We can close out in prayer. I can turn my mic off. You gonna have Shaul? You gonna close us out in prayer, King?
Oh, okay. Slicha. Toda Rabbi Abba Yahuwah, thank you for all your love and your kindness. Thank you for constant protection upon our lives, our minds, our souls, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you, Abba Yahuwah, for the lesson. We thank you for your Shabbat, for allowing us to go and partake in it. We thank you for your Ruach Kodesh and your son, Yahusha, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you for allowing us to be aware in this day and time, and to allow us the opportunity and chance and choice to go ahead and turn from our iniquities, sins, and transgressions, and to choose you, Abba Yahuwah, and your Torah, the Bruach that it is, Abba Yahuwah. We thank you, Abba Yahuwah, for all your love and your kindness. We ask that you grant traveling favor to those who are going to the next destinations, Abba Yahuwah. We ask that you Baruch our week as we go forward, Abba Yahuwah. We ask that you, your constant protection and hand be upon our lives, straightening our paths, causing us to consider our iniquities, Abba Yahuwah, that we change and turn and do your will. Baruch Hashem, the Yahusha HaMashiach. Hallelujah. Amen.
Right. Yeah. You had anything more? You good? Okay. All right. Well,
Work to do, gentlemen. Work to do. We got 2 chairs. We got 9 females. We got 12. So 2 tables and 4 tables.